The broke risk unsupported men cannot afford is not failure. It is reckless failure. If you have no savings, no powerful family, no useful network, and no one coming to rescue you, then you do not have the luxury of romanticizing risk. You cannot move like a man with rich parents. You cannot gamble like a man with inherited protection. You cannot burn the boats when you do not even control the shore. Machiavelli would not call that courage. He would call it exposure. And exposure is what destroys men who mistake desperation for power. There is a hidden rule most unsupported men learn too late. When a protected man fails, he falls into a cushion. When an unsupported man fails recklessly, he falls into debt, panic, humiliation, lost time, damaged credibility, and broken self-trust. The same mistake does not cost every man the same price. A man with savings can call a bad month a lesson. A man with family protection can call a failed idea experience. A man with a strong network can lose one opportunity and be introduced to another room. But a man with no cushion pays in breathing room. He pays in sleep. He pays in options. He pays in the quiet terror of knowing there is no one behind him if the move collapses. That does not mean you should freeze. Freezing is not wisdom. It is fear wearing the mask of caution. But recklessness is not courage either. It is desperation wearing the mask of power. The unsupported man must understand the difference, because his life gives him less margin for stupidity. He cannot afford vague ambition. He cannot afford blind leaps. He cannot afford to copy the risk pattern of men who inherited protection he does not have. His path must become smaller, sharper, cheaper, closer to income, faster to test, and built around proof. Mark Cuban was fired from Your Business Software, then started Micro Solutions. He did not begin with a kingdom. He began close to demand. Software. Sales. Customers. A real problem. A first buyer. His official story says his first customer fronted him money for needed software, and Micro Solutions later sold to CompuServe for $6 million. Look at what actually happened. The first proof was not a vision board. It was not an announcement. It was not a fantasy about future success. It was a customer, a buyer, a transaction, reality answering. John Paul DeJoria started John Paul Mitchell Systems in 1980 while living in his car. He did not wait for protection. He did not wait until life felt fair. He sold shampoo directly to the market. Later, Patron, which he co-founded, became part of a $5.1 billion Bacardi acquisition. But the beginning was not glamorous. It was direct. It was uncomfortable. It was contact with demand. A product. A buyer, a rejection, a sale, a signal. The lesson is not, take more risk. That is the childish interpretation. The lesson is colder. A man without a safety net must replace recklessness with precision. Machiavelli understood this because he did not write for men who wanted comfort. He wrote in a world of unstable rulers, shifting alliances, betrayal, invasion, fragile power, and violent political change. His work survives because human nature did not become noble, simply because the modern world became more polite. Most people turn Machiavelli into a villain or soften him into a leadership coach. He was neither. He was a realist. He did not ask what men should be. He studied what men do when power, fear, ambition, and survival are involved. In The Prince, Machiavelli writes, "I hold it to be true that fortune is the arbiter of one half of our actions, but that she still leaves us to direct the other half." This is the foundation of this entire message. You do not control the fact that you were born without support. You do not control whether your family understands your ambition. You do not control whether your friends take your future seriously. You do not control whether society rewards you early. That is fortune. But you control your preparation. You control your skill. You control your proof. You control your exposure. You control the size of the risk you take before reality has confirmed your direction. That is virtue. And for the broke, unsupported man, virtue means one thing before everything else: precision under pressure. The first false belief you must destroy is this: if I had support, I could start. That sentence feels reasonable because support feels like safety. If someone believes in you, you feel less insane. If someone gives you money, you feel less exposed. If someone introduces you to the right people, you feel less invisible. If someone claps for you early, your ambition feels less embarrassing. But that is the trap. Many unsupported men are not actually waiting for resources. They are waiting for emotional permission. They want the world to confirm the man they imagine, before they have built evidence that forces the world to update its judgment. Reality is harsher. No support does not mean no action. It means no blind action. No safety net does not remove responsibility. It increases the need for precision. If you wait for support before you move, you hand authority over your life to people who may not understand the game you are playing. Your family may love you and still misread your ambition. Your friends may like you and still prefer the older, smaller version of you. Society may ignore you until your proof becomes useful. That is not injustice. That is reality. Most people do not update their judgment because you explained yourself better. They update when your evidence becomes too visible to dismiss. Machiavelli warned against depending on forces that are not truly yours. In The Prince, he writes, "The arms of others either fall from your back, or they weigh you down, or they bind you fast." He was speaking of military dependence, but the principle applies carefully to modern life. Do not distort this into paranoia. This does not mean every supporter is an enemy. It means borrowed strength becomes dangerous when it becomes your foundation. If your plan only works because someone else rescues you, funds you, validates you, believes you, introduces you, forgives your mistakes, or opens the door at the right moment, then your plan is not power. It is dependence with better language. The unsupported man's first law is not find support. It is build something that can survive without it. This is where most men misunderstand strength. They think strength means making a dramatic move, quitting everything, announcing the empire, betting the last money, refusing all caution because caution feels weak. But a serious man does not need his risk to look dramatic. He needs his risk to produce intelligence. Every move should teach him something. What skill is demanded? Who pays? What problem hurts? What proof persuades? What offer gets response? What result can repeat? There are two kinds of risk: ego risk and proof risk. Ego risk says, I need to feel powerful now. Proof risk says, I will test reality before I expand. Ego risk is quitting with no cash flow because your pride cannot tolerate another month of being underestimated. Proof risk is building one paid skill after work for 90 days. Ego risk is buying a course before you know whether the market even pays for the outcome. Proof risk is creating one sample and sending it to 5 potential buyers. Ego risk is announcing the empire. Proof risk is making one stranger pay for one useful result. Ego risk wants emotional relief. Proof risk wants evidence. A broke man cannot afford ego risk. He needs calculated proof risk, not because he is weak, because his margin for stupidity is smaller. The unsupported man must become more exact than the protected man. That is not unfair. That is reality. The most dangerous broke man is not the one who is afraid. It is the one who is desperate to prove he is not afraid. That man becomes easy to manipulate. He wants the leap because the leap gives him a story. He wants the big move because small proof feels humiliating. He wants to feel like a founder before he has found demand. He wants to feel like a leader before he has built discipline. He wants to feel chosen before he has created evidence. But drama is not strategy. A man with capital can survive a failed experiment. A man with family protection can absorb delay. A man with a useful network can get another chance. A man with savings can make mistakes without immediate panic. But a broke, unsupported man pays full price for every blind move. He does not just lose money, he loses breathing room. And breathing room is power. When you lose breathing room, you start negotiating from fear. You accept bad work. You tolerate disrespect. You sell too cheap. You chase fast money. You over-explain. You beg for approval. You become emotionally available to anyone who offers rescue. And a reactive man is easy to control. This is how recklessness creates dependence. The man thought he was escaping weakness, but he concentrated all his weakness into one untested decision. Then, when the move failed, he had no second move. And a man with no second move is not powerful. He is cornered. Machiavelli understood that disorder punishes the unprepared. In the Discourses on Livy, he writes, "Men never behave well unless compelled." This is not motivational language. It is political realism. He is saying that human beings do not naturally stay disciplined when nothing forces them. Comfort weakens structure. Pressure reveals structure. For the unsupported man, the pressure is already there. The question is whether that pressure becomes discipline or panic. If this video is hitting the part of you that knows you have been consuming truth without converting it into proof, then act while the pressure is still honest. If you are the man building without inherited protection, stop mistaking content consumption for progress. You already know you need to see reality clearly, but your problem is that you do not know what to build with that clarity. If you keep collecting principles without turning them into a skill path, a proof project, and an execution plan, you will become mentally sharp and materially trapped. Use the leverage map. Depths of Psyche helps you see reality clearly. The leverage map shows you what to build with that clarity, the skill path, proof project, and execution plan that fit your current situation. This is not for men who want philosophy as entertainment. It is for men who are ready to turn pressure into proof. The decision is yours. And if this is the kind of work that forces you to think more clearly, like this video, subscribe and comment the skill you are testing this week. Now look again at Cuban, not as a billionaire, not as a celebrity, not as a man who is now protected by wealth. Look at the early move. He was fired from a software sales job. He was living with limited resources. He was not sitting on generational protection. But he had a dangerous advantage. He was close to demand. Most broke men ask the wrong first question. They ask, "What business should I start?" That question is premature. The first question is, what skill can touch money quickly? Because when you have no cushion, distance from money is danger. If your skill takes years before anyone can pay for it, you need a survival strategy. If your idea requires capital before proof, you are exposed. If your plan depends on being discovered, you are waiting for fortune. Machiavelli would not respect that. He would ask where your arms are, not literal arms, your tools, your capability, your proof, your force of action. Cuban understood software and sales well enough to solve a problem that someone was already willing to pay for. That is the point. His early advantage was not safety. It was proximity to demand. A customer needed something. He could get close enough to the problem to create value. The first buyer was proof that reality had answered. Micro-solutions did not begin as an abstract dream. It began as contact with a market. This is what unsupported men must learn. Choose skills that can touch money quickly. Sales, copywriting, video editing, web design, lead generation, automation, paid media, appointment setting, content strategy, AI workflow building. These are not magical skills. They are not guaranteed paths. They matter because they can be demonstrated. They can be tested. They can be sold in small units. They can create proof before you bet your entire life. Do not choose the skill that flatters your identity. Choose the skill the market can pay for. This sentence will offend the part of you that wants to feel special. Good. That part has probably cost you time. Many unsupported men are not choosing skills. They are choosing identities. They want to be seen as creative, strategic, independent, different, visionary. But the market does not pay for your preferred self-image. It pays for problems solved. It pays for outcomes. It pays for reduced pain, increased revenue, saved time, better attention, cleaner systems, stronger messaging, more leads, more sales, better execution. The unsupported man does not need a dream that makes him feel special. He needs a skill that makes him useful. Useful becomes paid. Paid becomes proof. Proof becomes leverage. Leverage becomes freedom. But skill alone is not enough. A skill hidden in your room is still invisible. This is where John Paul DeJoria becomes important. He did not wait for the world to believe in him. He put a product in front of the market and let rejection sharpen the proof. Direct selling terrifies unsupported men because the market gives no emotional protection. Your family may doubt you with vague words. Your friends may ignore you politely. But the market gives clean signals. Yes. No. Not now. Too expensive. Not useful. Show me proof. That is harsh. But harsh feedback is better than fantasy. The man who avoids the market protects his ego and starves his future. He studies, he plans, he watches videos, he writes goals, he builds privately, he thinks deeply, but nothing touches reality. And because nothing touches reality, nothing creates evidence. Invisible competence is easy to ignore. John Paul DeJoria started John Paul Mitchell Systems while living in his car in Los Angeles. He has described starting with almost nothing and later helping build $2 billion companies, including Patron. Patron was later acquired by Bacardi in a deal valuing the tequila maker at $5.1 billion. But the early move was not glamorous. It was direct. He sold shampoo door to door. That matters because direct contact with demand forced reality to answer. No abstract dream, no vague brand, no waiting for applause. A product, a buyer, a rejection, a sale, a signal. Machiavelli writes in The Prince, "It is necessary for a prince to have the people friendly, otherwise he has no security in adversity." Do not misunderstand this. He is not saying be liked. He is saying power requires a base. A ruler without a base is exposed. A builder without buyers is exposed. A creator without distribution is exposed. A skilled man without visible proof is exposed. Support is not your base. Demand is your base. Customers are a base. Portfolio is a base. Proof is a base. Reputation is a base. Savings are a base. Repeatable skill is a base. The unsupported man must stop asking, "Who believes in me?" He must ask, "Where is demand already paying?" Then he must move toward that demand with something small enough to test and serious enough to measure. You are not too unsupported to begin. You are too exposed to build fantasies. Your path must be practical before it becomes powerful. Direct contact with demand is not beneath you. It is how the unprotected man stops hallucinating and starts measuring. This is the deeper correction. The unsupported man does not need more emotional permission. He needs contact with reality. He needs fewer speeches and more signals. He needs fewer declarations and more tests. He needs less identity protection and more proof creation. Because once proof appears, the game changes. Not completely, not instantly, but materially. Proof gives you self-trust because your belief is no longer floating in your imagination. Proof gives you leverage because other people can see what you can do. Proof gives you options because the market has answered at least once. Proof gives you dignity because you are no longer begging to be understood. You are building evidence. And this is where Machiavelli's warning becomes sharper. Power without foundations collapses under pressure. A man without foundations is not brave. He is exposed. Unsupported men romanticize the leap because the leap feels cleaner than the slow humiliation of building foundations. Learning a skill is slow. Creating proof is slow. Sending offers is uncomfortable. Being rejected is uncomfortable. Tracking numbers is cold. But fantasy gives immediate relief. It lets a man feel powerful before he has earned power. Machiavelli had no patience for that. In The Prince, he writes, "States that rise unexpectedly cannot leave their foundations fixed in such a way that the first storm will not overthrow them." This is one of the most important lines for the unsupported man. The first storm will come. A bill, a family emergency, a job loss, a client rejection, a failed offer, a bad month, a broken laptop, a period of doubt. A protected man can call someone. An unsupported man has to absorb the storm with what he already built. If your foundation is motivation, the storm will break it. If your foundation is resentment, the storm will poison it. If your foundation is approval, the storm will remove it. If your foundation is one lucky opportunity, the storm will expose it. If your foundation is one unstable income source, the storm will threaten your entire life. The unsupported man cannot afford fragile structures. Machiavelli separates fortune from preparation. In his image, fortune is like a raging river. It floods where barriers were not built. He writes, "Fortune shows her power where valor has not prepared to resist her." This is not optimism. This is engineering. You do not control the river, you build barriers. In modern life, your barriers are skill, cash flow, proof, discipline, market demand, reputation, savings, controlled risk, and a repeatable operating system. A man who says, "I will figure it out later," is not free. He is gambling that the river will not rise. Precision is how the unsupported man builds barriers against fortune, not because he can avoid all pain, but because he can reduce unnecessary exposure. He cannot control every outcome, but he can control the size of his experiments. He can control the skill he chooses. He can control whether he measures demand before betting big. He can control whether he creates proof before asking for belief. He can control whether he risks his ego before risking his survival. Stop thinking like a man waiting for rescue. Think like the founder of a fragile state. Your first job is not expansion. Your first job is survival with dignity. Then proof. Then leverage. Then expansion. Power without foundations collapses under pressure. But there is a seduction that destroys broke men before the storm even arrives. It is the modern religion of reckless risk. You hear it everywhere. Take the leap, burn the boats, quit now, bet on yourself, go all in, act like you cannot fail. The words sound powerful because they turn fear into a performance. They let a man feel bold without doing the colder work of calculation. But Machiavelli did not worship boldness by itself. He respected effectiveness. In The Prince, Machiavelli writes, "Never let any government imagine that it can choose perfectly safe courses." Then he gives the real lesson. Prudence consists in knowing how to distinguish the character of troubles, and for choice to take the lesser evil. That is the opposite of reckless risk. Machiavelli is not saying there is a risk-free path. He is saying that a serious man studies the nature of each danger and chooses the risk that preserves his ability to act again tomorrow. This is the law broke, unsupported men must understand. The goal is not to avoid all risk. That is impossible. The goal is to avoid stupid risk. The goal is to avoid ego risk. The goal is to avoid risks that produce no information, no proof, no leverage, and no second move. A man with rich parents can spend a year finding himself. A man with savings can test an idea for months without immediate panic. A man with a powerful network can fail publicly and still get invited into another room. But an unsupported man has to respect downside. This is not envy, this is math. Their game is not your game. If you copy their risk pattern without copying their protection, you are not being brave. You are being naive. You are trying to wear another man's armor while standing on your own battlefield. This is where many men destroy themselves. They see the visible confidence of protected men, but they do not see the invisible cushion underneath it. They see the founder, but not the family capital. They see the leap, but not the network. They see the public risk, but not the private backup plan. They see the quote, but not the structure beneath the quote. If you imitate visible confidence without invisible protection, you become the fool in another man's myth. Rich men do not worship risk. They measure it. They measure downside. They measure time to cash. They measure skill demand. They measure market access. They measure proof speed. They measure repeatability. They measure leverage potential. They measure cost of failure. They ask a question broke men often avoid because the answer scares them. If this fails, what remains? That question is not negative. It is strategic. A weak man avoids that question because he wants fantasy to stay alive. A serious man asks it because he wants his future to stay alive. If this fails, do I still have skill? If this fails, do I still have cash flow? If this fails, do I still have reputation? If this fails, do I still have energy? If this fails, do I still have a second move? If this fails, did I at least gain intelligence from the attempt? That is precision. Machiavelli writes in The Prince, "It is much safer to be feared than loved." This line is often abused by men who want to sound dangerous without becoming disciplined. He was not telling ordinary men to terrorize people. He was explaining that love is unstable because it depends on another person's feeling, while fear depends on a structure of consequence. In your life, the application is internal. Do not build on emotional approval. Build on consequences, evidence, and the structure. The market does not have to love you. It has to see value. Your family does not have to understand you. Your proof must become too visible to dismiss. Your friends do not have to clap. Your discipline must survive without applause. This is how the unsupported man buys time, options, and leverage. He does not ask what feels inspiring. He asks what creates proof fastest. He does not ask what makes me look ambitious. He asks what can the market measure. He does not ask who supports me. He asks what problem can I solve so clearly that support becomes irrelevant. The unsupported man must become colder than his emotions, not numb, not cruel, precise. There is a difference. Numbness ignores reality. Precision studies it. Cruelty damages blindly. Precision cuts waste. Desperation rushes. Precision measures. Now the question becomes practical. What does the unsupported man actually do? He selects one income skill with precision. Do not choose the skill that makes you feel powerful. Choose the skill that can buy back your freedom fastest. The question is not, what am I passionate about? Passion matters later. At the beginning, the unsupported man needs economic traction. He needs a skill that can move from practice to proof to payment. He needs something that can survive contact with reality. Choose wrong, and you waste months feeling productive while nothing changes. Choose wrong, and you consume content instead of creating evidence. Choose wrong, and you remain dependent on a job you hate, a family that doubts you, or a world that has no reason to notice you. Choose right, and your first small payment becomes more than money. It becomes evidence. Evidence changes self-trust. Self-trust changes behavior. Behavior changes reputation. Reputation changes opportunity. This is where the skill selection matrix becomes useful, not as a motivational exercise, as a filter for survival. First, choose one income skill. Ask yourself, what skill can I learn and test without needing permission, capital, or connections? One skill, not five. Not a fantasy stack, not a list you use to feel productive. 1. Sales, copywriting, video editing, web design, lead generation, automation, paid media, content strategy, appointment setting, AI workflow building. These are not magic words. They are examples of skills that can often be close to demand. Businesses already pay for them. Creators already pay for them. Agencies already pay for them. Service businesses already pay for them. Consultants, coaches, local companies, real estate agents, recruiters, online brands, and founders already pay for outcomes connected to them. Your first skill must be close to demand. If businesses already pay for it, it deserves attention. If it can be demonstrated quickly, it deserves attention. If it can create measurable improvement, it deserves attention. A broke man cannot afford vague skill acquisition. Second, measure market demand. Ask who already pays for this skill, not who might pay, not who should pay, not who would pay if the world were fair. Who already pays? Name them. Local businesses, creators, coaches, agencies, consultants, e-commerce stores, real estate agents, recruiters, software founders, service businesses. If you cannot name the buyer, you do not have a market. You have a hope. This is where many men hide. They say they want to build a business, but they cannot name the buyer. They say they want freedom, but they cannot name the problem. They say they want money, but they cannot name who already spends money to solve the problem they claim to solve. Demand is not proven by your interest. Demand is proven by existing payment. Third, measure speed to proof. Ask, how fast can I create visible evidence? One edited video, one landing page, one sales message, one automation demo, one outreach sequence, one before and after sample, one content strategy audit, one appointment setting script, one lead list, one portfolio piece. The unsupported man needs proof fast because proof reduces panic. Do not spend 6 months studying before creating one visible artifact. Study enough to produce, then produce enough to learn. Invisible learning does not change your position until it becomes visible proof. This will offend the man who hides behind preparation. Good. He needs to be offended. Preparation is noble until it becomes avoidance. Learning is valuable until it becomes a place to hide from judgment. Research is useful until it protects you from rejection. At some point, the work must leave your private world and enter reality. Fourth, measure cost of entry. Ask, can I begin with low money and high effort? This matters. If the skill requires expensive equipment, licensing, inventory, or long unpaid time before proof, it may not be your first move. That does not mean the skill is bad. It means it may not fit your current battlefield. Your first battlefield must allow repeated attempts. because your first attempt will probably be rough. Your second will be better. Your 10th will teach you more than your first month of passive study. The unsupported man should choose skills where effort can substitute for capital. That is one of the few advantages he has. He may not have money, he may not have status, he may not have introductions, but he can apply focused effort to a narrow, market-visible problem long enough to create proof. Not endless effort, not random effort, focused effort, measured effort, effort aimed at demand. 5th, measure path to income. Ask, what is the first paid action? Not the dream business model, not the perfect brand, not the empire. The first paid action. Send 5 targeted outreach messages. Offer 1 small service. Build 1 sample for a target client. Ask for 1 paid trial. Sell 1 audit. Fix 1 page. Edit 1 video. Automate 1 workflow. Book 1 appointment. Write 1 sales message. Build 1 simple landing page. Your first money does not need to be impressive. It needs to be real, because real money proves contact with demand. The first payment is not income, it is intelligence. It tells you that someone in the market had enough pain, urgency, trust, or curiosity to exchange money for your ability. That is not everything, but it is not nothing. It is a signal, and signals are the beginning of strategy. 6th, choose the safest aggressive move. The move must be small enough to survive failure, serious enough to create proof, close enough to money, repeatable for 7 days. For 7 days, create 1 sample per day and send 5 targeted messages per day. That is not glamorous. That is controlled contact with reality. By the end of those 7 days, you will know more than the man who spent the same week imagining his future. When you have no safety net, never gamble the whole future on an untested move. The skill selection matrix turns panic into precision. It forces you to stop asking vague questions. What should I do with my life? That is the wrong question when your position is fragile. A better question is, what skill can create proof and income fastest from my current position? An even better question is, what problem do people already pay to solve? And what small proof can I create this week? That is the question of a man returning to command. You are not looking for a passion. You are looking for a weapon of economic movement, not violence. Capability. A skill that gives you options. A skill that creates proof. A skill that lets you stop begging to be understood. A skill that turns private ambition into public evidence. But one danger remains. Even after choosing the skill, the unsupported man can still lose, because skill without reputation is silent. The world does not judge your potential, it judges your visible evidence. Why do people ignore talented men? Because hidden value is treated like non-existent value. You may be capable, you may be serious, you may be intelligent, but if the world has no proof, it has no reason to update its judgment. This is not fair. It is reality. Machiavelli writes in The Prince, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are." This is not a quote about fake image. It is a quote about political perception. Most people will never inspect your depth. They will judge signals. Output, reputation, confidence, association, visible results, consistency. The unsupported man hates this because he wants to be seen for what he could become. But power does not respond to your inner potential. Power responds to external proof. If you do not control your evidence, others control your narrative. Your family will judge you by your past. Your friends will judge you by your current rank. Employers will judge you by replaceable labor unless you create visible leverage. The market will ignore what it cannot see. The world does not owe inspection to hidden ability. So stop resenting the world for not seeing what you have not made visible. This is not a call to become fake. It is a call to become legible. If you edit videos, show before and after edits. If you write copy, show the message and the result it is designed to create. If you build automations, show the problem before and the workflow after. If you generate leads, show the list quality, the outreach logic, the response data. If you design websites, show the page, the positioning, the conversion purpose. If you sell, show the process, the objections, the offer, the outcome. Invisible skill keeps you emotionally proud and economically weak. Visible proof is what converts skill into leverage. This is why the unsupported man must document, package, and distribute evidence. Not to beg for attention. To make the market's judgment easier. People are busy. People are selfish. People are risk-averse. People do not want to guess whether you are useful. They want signals. A portfolio is a signal. A case study is a signal. A testimonial is a signal. A before and after example is a signal. A clean offer is a signal. A consistent output history is a signal. A small paid result is a signal. And when signals accumulate, perception changes. Not because people became kind, because reality became harder to deny. This is the shift unsupported men must make. Stop trying to be believed. Start becoming measurable. Stop explaining your ambition. Start producing evidence. Stop asking people to understand the man you imagine. Start building the proof that makes their old judgment obsolete. Your pain is not enough. Your struggle is not enough. Your isolation is not enough. Your resentment is not enough. Your ambition is not enough. Proof is the language power understands. And this is where the final illusion must die. Many unsupported men secretly envy men with safety nets. They envy the rich kid who can fail without panic. They envy the man with a father who makes introductions. They envy the friend whose family funded the first move. They envy the person who seems to get chances without earning them. Some of that envy is understandable, but it is useless if it becomes identity. Envy can show you where structure matters. But if you live inside envy, you keep studying another man's protection instead of building your own. Stop envying men with safety nets. Their game is not your game. A protected man may be able to move faster because the floor beneath him is stronger. You may have to move colder because your floor is thin. That does not mean you cannot move. It means you must move differently. Less fantasy, more precision. Less reckless risk, more controlled proof. Less waiting, more skill. Less explanation, more evidence. Less resentment, more structure. A man without a safety net must not become desperate. He must become exact. If you have no savings, no useful network, no family protection, and no one opening doors, your path must be colder. You do not have the luxury of pretending every risk is equal. You do not have the luxury of letting shame choose your moves. You do not have the luxury of calling avoidance patience or calling gambling courage. You need one skill close to demand. You need one visible proof project. You need one small offer. You need one repeatable action for the next 7 days. You need direct contact with reality. You need evidence that can survive outside your imagination. This is how an unsupported man begins to become dangerous. Not loud, not dramatic, not desperate, not desperate, not desperate. Dangerous because he is no longer waiting for permission. Dangerous because he is no longer negotiating with fantasy. Dangerous because his moves are small enough to survive failure and serious enough to create proof. Dangerous because every week he becomes harder to dismiss. And if you are the kind of man this channel is built for, understand the test. If you are an unsupported man who is tired of being mentally awake but materially stuck, stop confusing insight with execution. You already know the world is not coming to rescue you, but your problem is that your private ambition still lacks a public system. If you keep watching powerful ideas without converting them into skill, proof, reputation, and leverage, you will become the man who can explain reality but cannot change his position inside it. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered work designed to sharpen your judgment, strengthen your operating philosophy, and help you build with more precision when nobody is clapping. This is not for men who want comfort. It is not for men who want quotes to decorate their weakness. It is for men who want to turn isolation into structure, pressure into proof, and proof into leverage. The decision is yours. If this video forced you to see your situation more clearly, like it, subscribe, and comment one sentence: precision over panic. Do not ask how to escape overnight. Ask what skill can start buying your freedom. Ask what proof you can create before the week ends. Ask what small risk can teach you the truth without destroying your future. Ask what move keeps you in the game long enough to become undeniable. A protected man can survive more mistakes. A broke, unsupported man must make fewer blind moves. That is not a curse, it is a discipline. The world may not give you a cushion, so build foundations. The world may not give you belief, so build proof. The world may not give you permission, so build skill. The world may not give you rescue, so build leverage. Machiavelli would not respect the man who complains that fortune did not favor him. He would study what part of the battlefield still belongs to him. Your battlefield is not everything, but it is not nothing. You control your attention. You control your next skill. You control your first sample. You control your first offer. You control your exposure. You control whether your next move is ego risk or proof risk. You control whether your pressure becomes panic or precision. So stop romanticizing risk. Stop copying men whose protection you do not have. Stop waiting for people to believe in a version of you they have no evidence for. Build the skill. Create the proof. Touch demand. Measure the signal. Protect your breathing room. Earn your next move. Because when you have no safety net, precision is not optional. It is survival.